Don't have any good jokes, sorry. Thank you guys for letting me come speak about my program, brag about our kids a little bit. That's awesome. I tell you a little bit about the program, kind of where it's come from over the last few years, and where we're headed, what we're all about. First, my name's Pipeggi, if you didn't hear, where I spent about 13 years, 14 years coaching in the Salem Kaiser School District, multiple schools there. And in the fall of 2018, I got the opportunity to come over and lead the Ridgeview program. And my father-in-law, I was telling one of you guys, my father-in-law moved over and started a business here, and my wife and I said, if we had an opportunity to go to Central Oregon, let's do it. So when the job opened up, I applied, and things worked out. Here we are. Absolutely love living here. I love everything about it. I grew up in a small town, a little smaller than Redmond, but it still has that small town vibe, which I absolutely love and really appreciate. And I'm excited that my kids get to grow up in that kind of community. Our program, I'll kind of tell you a little bit about the program, where it was when we got here. My staff, our basketball program turned over that same year. Our baseball program has twice now. My very first day of practice at Ridgeview, fall of 2018, I spent about a week with them in the spring, and the weight room all summer was very, very poorly attended. There wasn't a lot of buy-in, and female athletics were thriving. Male athletics, for whatever reason, there wasn't a lot of people around that really, really bought into the message that we wanted to have and the culture that we wanted to build. The very first day of practice, I had a huge brawl, basically, in our locker room before we started. I remember sitting in the coach's office and have another coach run in, say, you got to get in here, and there's kids throwing helmets. Just a bad deal. And we ended up having to kick off about 6 seniors off our program that very first day. And not the way you want to start your first year as a head football coach. But that moment, I really feel kind of set the tone for where we were going. Because it let kids know that we were serious, we weren't going to accept that kind of behavior, and that things needed to change. And like I said, our basketball coach came in at the same time, so that program, we work really, really close together. We have a great baseball coach right now, Shane Knock. Exact same thing with our baseball program. And kids understand what's expected of them. They understand what we are all about. In our football program, we have a couple of core values that we really hammer on with the kids daily. Coachability, selflessness, mental toughness, and discipline. We talk about it all the time. Every Monday, I hire a guy. He owns a gym out in Tumalo. Is everybody familiar with the De La Salle football program in California? Okay, the winningest high school program in the nation. Went on I can't remember, 100-something game win streak, I would say, or more than that maybe. He got to play in that program. And they were all about culture and doing things right. And so when John asked me to be a part of it, I was really excited to get him on board. And so John comes, we call him our culture development coach. He comes in on Mondays, and we meet in the auditorium over at Ridgeview. We talk about our pillars. We talk about what it means to be a good teammate, what it means to play together, what that looks like not only on the field, in the locker room, in the classroom, in the community, and those things. We really try to beat that into our kids so they understand that it's not just about the game itself. You can learn so many life lessons through football, but it's more than that. It's what you take away from football. That's what I love about the game when I played, is the things I learned, not just about the game. Trust me, I absolutely love the game. I'm addicted to it. I chose my career path based off of it. But everything else I learned about life from my coaches, from my mentors, is much bigger than just playing in the game itself. And so that's really important to us. And my first year, like I said, we had to kick those kids off, and it was kind of a shock, to everybody, but we had to do it. And we have not had a major discipline issue since, and that was going on 5 years ago now. Our kids have been outstanding. I really hope, if any of them knocked on your doors the last few weeks selling fundraising cards, they were awesome, I hope. But good. I haven't had any complaints yet, so hopefully not now. That'd be terrible. But I can't talk enough about how good our kids are. We have great kids, as everybody. Redmond has good kids. Big schools have great kids. A lot of times they just know what that looks like, right? Especially over the last few years with being locked up and in isolation through the pandemic and all of that. A lot of them have forgotten how to be students and how to act right. And so that was one of the best parts about being able to continue our program through the pandemic in some shape or form, that we were able to kind of keep our kids in line to becoming great adults. And that's one of the things, I had our parent meeting, it's been about 2 weeks ago now. We have it every year. And one of the slides, usually I have a slideshow and everything, and I'll go through things with parents, rules and expectations. And one of my slides talks about, not guarantee that your student athlete will play a lot, but I can guarantee that they'll be a better person when they leave our program. And I, for the first time, ever had an issue with that. And we talked about it, and I said, we'll talk about it afterwards if you don't mind. And so we finished our presentation, and they came up. And when I was able to talk more in depth and kind of explain the things that we do and why it's important to us and everything, light bulb went on. They totally understood that. And it's important to us. It really is. That's what we strive for in our program, to make better individuals, better human beings, better adults. As far as the program, before I got here, they won a state title, 4A level in 2013, I believe, second year of the program. 2012 was their first season. After that, they only won, I think, 3 or 4 games combined, give or take. We made the playoffs that first year, lost in the first round. Next year was a little struggle. Went 2-7. Then our spring season, we were 2-4. But there was only one game that wasn't a game we should have won. If you ask me, and I could say that to all of them, but they really were a one-play difference in those games, losing by a score in each of them. Then last season we had a great year. We were 8-2, and then this year, see what happened. 10 schools. I'm really excited about it. If we're ever going to do it, this is the year. I've got 20 seniors. I've got a small junior class, but I've got 27 sophomores and 35 freshmen right now. This is the first year that Ridgeview's had 3 football teams since the school's, which is really exciting. Having that third team, giving those kids a chance to develop and play is a big deal. We just hired our new head track coach. He was my student teacher and coach last year. He's a Ridgeview alum, a Redmond alum, Brent Yakey. He just got done throwing track and field at Montana. We hired him to be our head track coach, and I hired him to be our head football coach at Obsidian. And he's doing an amazing job. Usually has 25 to 30 kids, and he's up to 60 right now. So things are really looking up in the program, and I'm super excited. A bit for a while, the youth programs, the numbers start session scare and all that stuff. Trying to, one, educate ourselves and how we coach, and making sure we keep safe. Just understand that the game has never been starting to rise. Our Redmond youth football organization has higher numbers this year than they have in a few. So we're really, really excited about that. So, any questions about anybody from the program or anything like that?
So where do your students matriculate to? Do they go get scholarships into colleges?
So
football?
The hardest thing as a football coach is I believe every one of my kids is good enough. And unfortunately, it's not my decision. It's up to the college coaches. Our team in the COVID season in the spring, we had one gentleman play George Fox, and we had another one who is just actually been named this week, the starting running back down College of Siskiyous, which is a junior college down there. Then last season's team, I only had 8 seniors, and the one had 2 kids. One of them is at Carroll College right now trying to play over Montana, and then the other one decided to go on his mission rather than play at, I think it was Eastern he was maybe going to. So he's on his mission. I believe he's going to attend BYU after that. This year, I've got a number of kids that are college level athletes, and so time will tell what ends up happening with them and where they go. But they said I'd love it if everybody could, but that's up to the colleges, what they want in their program.
Who else will you play besides the Ben schools?
So we open up Friday at Springfield, and then we go to Centennial and Gresham the week after that. Then we are at home for quite a while. We have McMinnville coming to us week 3, Pendleton coming to us week 4, and then we start our league games with Summit. Summit is the real deal this year. They are loaded.
What's your style of offense?
I base out of the eye. I'm a big fan of gap schemes as far as running game goes, but we do spread out quite a bit. I grew up myself playing. I went to Regis High School and stayed in private school and stayed, and then we ran the fly. Willamette was really big at that point, and so our coach was big with that program. Went to Western, and we just kind of ran a little bit of everything. Not very good at any of it. I was there. And I started coaching at McKay High School in 2006, 7, with a guy named Jay Maynard, now the head coach at Sprague, where I came from last. And he ran out of the eye and kind of introduced me to I mean, I'd ran some gap schemes in college, but never really knew why, right? I was just a player playing. And you can get by with smaller linemen. You don't have to have big bodies to move people. You got a lot of double teams, down blocks. It's been real effective for us. We can run it out of a lot of different sets and be creative, but still run the same stuff. Kids don't have to think about it.
How many of your players play both sides of the ball, and then how many, if you know the second question, how many of your players play another sport?
So as far as the first question, the more numbers, the less kids have to go both ways. And so this year, I couldn't say off the top of my head, I would estimate probably about, I would say a little over half are probably going to be playing both ways. We still have a lot of position battles going on. I've got, I don't know if I mentioned my running back, he got in a car wreck this spring. If he's healthy, he is the guy, but he's not, unfortunately. He's working his way back. I've got 4 running backs right now that nobody's really grasped that position, so we'll have a lot of rotation there. Same with our safety position. Same with our outside linebacker position. So there's a lot of guys that are kind of rotating still, trying to see who's going to be the guy, which is great. That gives you competition. Every day of practice, we're getting better and better. Guys competing and getting after it. We're not quite to the spot where you're a good football team when you have to kind of pull the reins back in practice so they don't beat each other up too much. We're not quite there, but this group has the potential to get there. And so I'm excited to hopefully see that here in a few weeks. As far as the multiple sport thing, that's at Ridgeview, we're big on that. We want you to be involved as much as possible. Man, I would say there's only a handful of kids that don't play at least 2. There's a lot of them that play 3. All of our kids, not all, the majority of our kids are starters, are playing 3 sports.
Wow.
Which shows, a lot of times, especially as we've been going, a lot more kids focus at young ages, and they don't get to develop those other skills. They get repetitive use injuries, that sort of thing. I always argue with my brother-in-law because he's all about baseball. I'm like, let him play more, play more. And so we want kids to do more. I know that's the case. Like I said, Redmond and Ben, we want them to be involved as much as possible.
Cool.
So I'm in the back of the room. I'm not sure if you talked about an academic plan.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Did you talk about it, or could you talk?
I will talk about it. No. So one of my our team goals every year. Every team is different, and so I let our seniors kind of pick 2 of those goals. And one of our team goals every year is our team GPA. And in the past, we had it set at 3.0. It's kind of the average where Ridgeview had been for a team GPA, and they'd always been right about that. And that's usually gotten us top 7 to 10 in the state for football. And I can't remember, Coach Duff, you might remember, was it 2 years ago? You guys were way up there, and we dropped out. And so that kind of lit fire in me a little bit, and I'm not going to lose to Redmond or anything. Come on, especially in the classroom. And so we started putting more focus on that, so I bumped it up. I challenged a little bit to 3.2. And then last year, Summit, Coach Hyde over there, he ended up hiring a person to basically be an academic advisor for them, which is basically what you get at the college level. And I didn't have the funds to do that, but I lucked out, and we actually have, we call it our student success coordinator at Ridgeview, and my mom is a retired principal from Salem, moved over here, and they couldn't find anybody to take the job, and so our old principal, Mr. Loving, convinced her to take it, and so she's like, I'd love to do that. So I kind of have my own now, it's my mom, which is great. So I'm really hoping that that program takes off. I really think it will. She met with the kids, it was this Monday, and kind of talked about her role and how that's going to look with those guys. And so academics are first. We have pretty strict policies as far as, which are more strict than they were in Salem. It's always been if you aren't there at at school all day, you don't get to participate in a game. Over there, it didn't matter about practices. But here, if you miss a class, you can't practice either. And so that's really helped. If you look at a lot of our athletes that aren't in multiple sports, if they're going to slack off in the classroom, it's always those trimesters where they're not involved. Because you've got extra people looking after them, whether it be coaches, someone like my mom, counselors, athletic director. That's
a good boundary.
I want to follow up on that question. My wife's a retired teacher from Obsidian. Been a number of years retired, but in years past, she struggled with student athletes who didn't do assignments, didn't pass assignments, and still were allowed to participate in practice and in games. Boy, if you've got a policy going in the high school,
that's always, yes, and that's always been the hard part of middle schools. I can't speak to Obsidian or Gregory as much as I could back where I came from, because I spent some more time in those middle schools as far as teaching there. And at least over there, they have zero policy as far as attendance, as far as academics at the middle school level. Why, I don't know. To me, it sets a bad precedent for those kids. It doesn't matter, you can play sports anyway. And I think it's too low. OSA rules is 2.0 to be eligible. You got to pass 4 or 5 classes. I think it should be higher than that.
You have to pass every class.
Should have to pass every single class, no Fs.
No Ds.
I think Ds.
No Ds, no.
Yeah, I agree. I love the academic piece, or not the academic, the attendance piece we have in place right now, the target piece. But why the middle school level does not include that?
And I don't know what it is today. I'm talking 5, 6 years ago.
I believe it's the same. I really do think it is the same. Don't quote me, but I think it is. And which is, like I said, it's unfortunate. It makes our job harder because we get our freshmen in and they think, oh, I'll show up for practice, or I just won't show up today. And it makes it hard.
Now, Coach, you're getting parent buy-in on that grade.
Parents have been great.
No, I mean buy-in into them carrying that grade level.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Parents have been super supportive. I've been very fortunate in every school I've coached at with the support I've had from parents. I've had very little pushback and much. And I think with parents, the big deal is letting them know the expectation so they're aware of it.
I wouldn't.
And then they're completely fine with it. It's if they don't know what's going on, sometimes I think causes issues.
I was going to just add, and maybe you can expand on it. During the COVID time, they relaxed those rules significantly.
Yes.
You couldn't, but correct me if I'm wrong, you couldn't keep a kid off the field.
Yeah.
If they were behind in their assignments and things like that.
The COVID time, that's a lot of things up for multiple reasons. One of them was that, and we weren't even supposed to technically flunk kids, like just kind of help them so they can pass, kind of give them what they need to do it. I totally understand helping kids as much as we can. That's what we're here for. But at the same time, there needs to be some structure and consequence. And kids kind of lost that over that.
The adults have that too.
I was just going to ask you, it seems like every 2 years our league changes. And I'm not 100%, I think Ben schools are accurate with their numbers.
No.
Being at our same level as the Redmond schools, but is what it is at this point. Certainly saves us transportation costs in our league. Where do you see long-term the Redmond schools fitting in?
I think we're growing fast enough. My second year? Right before COVID hit, so yeah, my second year. We were up 900 something. I think both of us Redmond won. And then as we went through COVID and came back for that spring, year and a half ago or whatever that was, we were down to 600s. So a lot of families either left or started finding alternative ways, whether it be homeschool. Redmond opened the RSD Flex, which is basically an online type of school. Whatever it was, we lost a ton of kids. I know Redmond High did too. And they're starting to come back. We're back over 900 this year. Obviously, there's tons of building going on. Not as much, a lot of the people moving to town are people who don't have young kids anymore. So we're not growing quite as fast, I think, as Ben, as far as our adolescent and childhood age families. But we are growing. With Caldera opening, I really think they're, in the foreseeable future, they will be bigger. But I think we're in this league to stay. The rest of the state doesn't want to have to travel. Sam Kaiser complained beyond belief. Down south didn't want it. Portland doesn't want it. So I think they're going to kind of find a way to keep us together from here on out.
There's no reason to be sending kids over mountains.
I totally understand like a non-league game, but multiple times over and over and over again, there's got to be better ways. You know, I really think as Caldera takes off, it's going to take them 2 to 5 years. As they take off, they'll kind of level the playing field over there, and I think it'll be a little more equitable as far as competition. That's how I feel. I've always been in the belief, and let's play the best to beat the best, so I'm okay with it.
I'm also not a big fan of like volleyball teams and soccer teams going midweek.
Yeah.
Seems, not to say that we had it right, but you know, when I was in the same league, Hamilton, we travel on a Friday. The way you work this in school, or you'd come down here and you'd wrestle Redmond on Friday and Crook County on Saturday, and then go back. Same with basketball teams too.
There's been tons of
Is it field issues though? Is that why they're going midweek?
more referee issues right now.
Yeah.
Mostly referee issues. Like we play at Centennial on Friday, we have to play doubleheader over there because they can't get enough officials in busing.
It's going on in every sport too. I used to
Everything.
shoot basketball.
Yeah, volleyball. I
soccer
want to
has
say
just a terrible time.
last I heard there was only I think 6 volleyball officials in all Central Oregon.
Oh, wow.
And
So
I will
they-
say that if you're somebody in the crowd, help police the crowd. If somebody's being an a-hole to refs,
Yeah.
we need to, as a community, say something to them, because that is one of the reasons we lose refs. It is. Bottom line.
Parents.
I've been in
And
those rooms.
That's been a big push by the OSAA this year.
Yeah.
It has been
There should be none of it.
crowd support, crowd behavior, along with the players and coaches.
Yep.
But they've always kind of been on that with us, not as much the crowds. So now they're really kind of hammering down on crowds, which could cause some issues. People could get fired up and not, you know, you ask them to leave, could refuse.
Might be another person at St. Peter's Gate. I don't mean to make fun of it,
South Park.
but- sorry, but, yeah, I think that's an issue with.
Oh, I officiated basketball, and I mean, it was in the back of my mind that
It's not
I'm like,
fun.
I don't really enjoy that, you know? Especially when you're doing the best you can.
Well, it's
And you're being called a homer, you're like, I don't know anybody here. What the hell are you talking
That's
about?
the hard part.
So what's the minimum age for a
Officials?
referee?
18.
Official?
18, and they kind of start them out, you know, at the younger levels, and they get to go up as they develop or whatnot, or how much they need people. But, yeah. So if anybody wants to ref, we can get you in contact.
So I have a question. Is that what you were talking about on the numbers with the students coming in? Your numbers at the high school, the attendance is higher for this school year.
Yeah, as far as my program.
So when you look at, so I have a daughter who teaches at Estacada High School, has been there for this is her 7th year, and so their numbers are starting to climb because of the building that's finally going out in that area. So more school-age families are moving in. So then they kind of look at the outgoing in our 5 to 10 year. Our numbers will be really, really good if they stay in the community.
Correct.
So with all the building that's happening here in Redmond, what is it that the school board and the schools, the communities, what are you seeing? Is there the hope of what, or is it pretty much the retirement or adult age families that are moving in, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the majority of them. I think there
So
is
you're not
still,
seeing big climbs right now?
not huge. I want to say, I would estimate maybe 4 or 5, not including freshmen, because I don't know where they're coming from.
Right.
I'm just getting to know them. But I would say about 4 or 5 of our kids in our program now are new to the area, not
Okay.
from Ridgeview already.
Okay.
Most of our growth has been from us recruiting the hallways,
Okay.
being in our middle school, that sort of thing. Us basically recruiting our own kids. That's where the majority of our growth in athletics is coming from.
Well, yeah, our sports are really important for the kids.
So, but yeah, it's hard to say. Like I said, I've had maybe 4, maybe 5 that are new from out of town.
Okay, any other
others?
questions or? Go Ravens.
Well, I can't help but ask the question that since John coached all these seniors that you have here, are you going to have a winning season this year?
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. We got to get by him first. I think so. We match up pretty good. Our first 2, and then McMinnville, 2 of my best friends, the head coach, defense coordinator, Matt Guy. And so that's for them. They'll be tough. They're a quality 6A program. Pendleton just dropped from 5A to 4A, and they're probably the preseason favorite to win the state title at 4A level. So that'll be a tough game. Summit's the preseason favorite to win the 5A state title. And then we go, I think we go Caldera, Mountain View Bend, and Redmond to finish it off. So, all those games are games that, we can win, but that's why you play them, right? You got to show up, and you got to stay healthy, and we'll see how it turns out.
Just a quick comment. Ridgeview, we're trying to rebuild our Tea Club at Ridgeview. If you have any kids that are interested in community service, just have them see Mandy Felton.
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk to the kids about that.
Yeah, we sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is Mandy part of this club too?
Yep.
Yeah. Any others?
Do you foresee any issues with transportation this year with getting the kids
Yes.
over the mountain?
Our game against Centennial, like I said, part of the reason it's still ahead is refs. The other reason they don't have bus drivers. So as of right now, we don't either, but we have our Type 20 buses. So we were leaving today, and they're still working on it. A couple of my coaches will be driving 3 Type 20s to Centennial for the JV game. We have a bus for varsity kids. And then tomorrow, our freshmen play at Mountain View. We couldn't get a bus to Mountain View, so Ben LaPine is sending a bus to pick up our kids and bring them home.
Oh, well, at least the communities are helping.
Correct.
But
It's all about getting the kids games and opportunities.
Yeah.
And so they're awesome set up. Any others? Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you. I
Volleyball, soccer, and track. All 3 of those.